That constant need for approval is exhausting. You know the feeling, scrolling through feeds or replaying conversations, wondering if you said the right thing to be liked. This modern anxiety has a name, pick-me energy, a desperate hunger for external validation that leaves you feeling hollow. But what if you could flip a switch and stop caring so much about who picks you? The answer is not a new self-help trend, but an ancient philosophy of unshakable resilience. Stoicism is the ultimate antidote to that performative, needy mindset. By the end of this, you will have 25 concrete philosophies to dismantle that insecurity and build a core of self-worth that no opinion can crack. We will explore how loving your fate can make rejection meaningless, and why remembering your own death is the key to living freely. What does true inner strength actually look like when you stop performing for the world? The first and most powerful tool to disarm that neediness is a simple mental separation. Stoicism teaches us to clearly divide our entire experience into two categories: what is within our control and what is not. Our own judgments, our actions, our desires, our character, these are ours to command. Everything else, the opinions of others, the outcomes of our efforts, the past, the weather, these are external events we can influence but never truly control. Pick-me energy is the exhausting attempt to govern that second category, to command the uncontrollable tide of other people's validation. You cannot force someone to like you, to choose you, to give you that promotion or that compliment. The moment you tie your sense of worth to that external verdict, you hand over your inner peace to a world that is indifferent and constantly changing. The shift happens when you stop performing for an audience you cannot control and start auditing the only performance that matters, your own. Instead of fretting over why a post only got a handful of likes, you ask yourself, was my intention authentic? Did I express what I truly felt? Instead of anxiously seeking reassurance from a partner with constant check-ins, you focus on the quality of your own actions within the relationship. Are you being kind? Are you being honest? Are you showing up as the person you want to be? Your self-assessment becomes the only reliable metric. This is not about becoming cold or indifferent to others, but about redirecting your precious energy from the futile task of managing perceptions to the vital work of building character. When your worth is measured by your own standards of integrity and effort, the desperate need to be picked simply evaporates. You are no longer auditioning, you are already living. This practice begins the moment you open your eyes. A Stoic morning premeditation is not about positive affirmations, it is a sober rehearsal of reality. You sit quietly and you ask, what will likely be outside my control today? Perhaps it is a co-worker's mood, the traffic on your commute, the reception to a proposal you worked hard on. You name these things, you acknowledge them as external events, and you consciously decide to place them in that mental box labeled, "Not mine to command." Then you ask, what is within my control today? Your own preparation, your attitude, your effort, your response if that coworker is rude, your patience if the traffic is terrible, the integrity you put into that proposal. This simple 5-minute mental sorting sets the tone for your entire day. It installs a filter. When a situation arises that triggers that old need for approval, the filter activates. Is this thing I am anxious about within my control? If the answer is no, you feel the urge to perform for it begin to loosen its grip. The energy you would have spent worrying is now freed up. But the real transformation happens in the evening review. This is where you audit your own performance, not for the world but for yourself. Look back on the day. Where did you slip? Did you find yourself fishing for a compliment and feeling hollow when it did not come? Did you refresh a social media post too many times, handing your mood over to an algorithm? Note it without judgment, simply as data. You invested energy in an external. Tomorrow you can catch it earlier. Journaling makes this concrete. Take a page and draw 2 columns. On the left, write the things that caused you stress or triggered that needy feeling today. In the right column, honestly categorize each one. Was the source of your anxiety your own action, or was it another person's reaction? Was it the outcome of an event, or was it the quality of your own effort leading up to it? You will start to see a brutal, liberating pattern. Nearly all your suffering is tied to the left column, to things you ultimately cannot control. This meticulous practice is the opposite of apathy. It is the most productive redirection of effort imaginable. You are taking the vast, scattered energy once spent on managing impressions, and you are funneling it into the one arena where you are truly the architect, your own character. Every time you successfully identify an external and choose not to let it dictate your worth, you are dismantling the machinery of pick-me energy at its root. You stop performing for a jury that was never really watching you in the first place. That evening review reveals a deeper truth about our discomfort. We spend so much of our lives running from minor inconveniences, believing our happiness depends on perfect comfort and constant approval. The second philosophy tackles this head-on by asking you to run toward discomfort on purpose. This is the Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort. It is the deliberate choice to seek out manageable hardships like taking a cold shower, skipping a meal you crave, wearing simpler clothes, or sleeping on a firmer surface. This is not about punishing yourself or embracing misery. It is a training exercise for your soul designed to build a specific kind of muscle resilience. Think of it like this: if your sense of self-worth is a house, pick-me energy is like building that house on a foundation of sand, the constantly shifting opinions and comforts provided by the outside world. One storm of criticism or one withdrawal of convenience, and the whole structure feels like it is crumbling. Voluntary discomfort is the process of pouring a concrete foundation underneath that house, one bucket at a time. Each time you choose the harder path, you prove to yourself in a tangible way that you can handle it. You are not as fragile as you feared. Your well-being does not actually depend on that warm shower, that gourmet meal, or those stylish clothes. You discover a profound self-sufficiency. The ancient Stoic Seneca was a wealthy advisor to an emperor, yet he regularly practiced what he called voluntary poverty. He would set aside a few days to wear his oldest tunic, eat only plain bread, and sleep on a hard bed. He did this not because he had to, but precisely because he did not have to. He wrote that by doing so, he was rehearsing for a fate that could one day be forced upon him, so that if he ever lost his wealth, it would feel like a return to an old acquaintance, not a devastating catastrophe. But the modern application goes deeper than preparing for loss. It directly attacks the need for external validation. When you are constantly seeking comfort and convenience, you are also, subtly, seeking a certain life to be admired. You want the curated home, the impressive meal, the perfect outfit, because on some level, you believe those things make you worthy of being picked. Voluntary discomfort severs that link. It proves to your own nervous system that your worth is not tied to luxury or the admiring glances of others. You can be worthy in a simple shirt. You can be content with a basic meal. You can be strong facing a chill. This practice kills pick-me energy by making you indifferent to the very currencies it trades in. You no longer need to signal your status or comfort to feel secure, because you have felt secure in their absence. You stop needing to be picked for the comfortable team because you have learned you can thrive on either side of that line. Start small. Next time you feel a slight hunger pang between meals, sit with it for 30 minutes. Do not immediately reach for a snack. Just observe the sensation and observe your mind's dramatic story about it. You will see it is just a feeling and it passes. Take a 1-minute cold blast at the end of your shower. Feel the initial shock, then feel your own breath steady, your own body adapt. In that moment, you are not a person seeking approval, you are a person mastering a challenge. Each small act is a vote for your own inner strength over external ease. It rewires your dependency, moving the source of your confidence from outside in. That concrete foundation you build through voluntary discomfort prepares you for a much larger shift in perspective, one that transforms every rejection and setback from a personal failure into a necessary step. This is the third philosophy, amor fati, the love of fate. It is the radical decision to not just accept what happens to you, but to actively embrace it, to love it as if you had chosen it yourself. Pick-me energy is rooted in a quiet resentment of fate. It whispers, why was I not chosen? Why did they get the opportunity instead of me? Why is my life not like theirs? This mindset casts you as a passive victim of circumstances, perpetually auditioning for a role the universe seems to deny you. Amor fati ends that audition. It says whatever happens, including the rejections and the criticisms, is not an obstacle on my path, it is the path itself. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by Stoic thought, called this his formula for human greatness. He wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, but love it." How does this look in a life desperate for approval? Imagine you apply for a promotion you deeply want and you are passed over. The old pick-me script would spiral into self-doubt, jealousy of the person who got it, and a frantic analysis of what you did wrong to not be picked. Amor fati rewrites the script entirely. First, you acknowledge the outcome as fate. It happened. This is now the reality of your path. Then you ask the transformative question, how is this necessary? How is this even beneficial for me? Perhaps that role would have trapped you in a department that is stagnating, while this rejection forces you to look elsewhere where you find a role with more creative freedom. Perhaps not getting it revealed a genuine skill gap you can now address, making you stronger for the next opportunity. Perhaps it simply saves you from a toxic manager you did not know about. The key is to trust that the universe or the logic of events is not conspiring against you, but is instead presenting the raw material for your growth. Every rejection becomes a redirection. Every piece of criticism, if even 1% of it is valid, becomes a free lesson from an unwilling teacher. When you love your fate, you become indifferent to whether others pick you because you are too busy embracing what their choice creates for you. A modern example is an author whose manuscript is rejected by dozens of publishers. The pick-me energy would have them begging for validation, rewriting to please a trend, or giving up entirely. The amor fati mindset has them thinking, this rejection is part of my story. It forces me to either improve my craft to undeniable levels or to explore the vibrant world of independent publishing where I have full control. That author, J.K. Rowling, famously faced numerous rejections before Harry Potter was accepted. Those rejections were not a sign she was unpickable, they were the friction that refined her resolve and her work. She embraced the struggle as part of the journey. Start applying this today with small refusals. Did a friend cancel plans you were excited about? Instead of feeling slighted, love the fate of a suddenly free evening. What enriching solitude or spontaneous activity can it now contain? Did you receive some constructive, if harsh, feedback? Do not just tolerate it, love it. Thank the person internally for handing you a map to a hidden weakness you can now fortify. This practice systematically dismantles the victim mentality that pick-me energy feeds on. You are no longer a contestant waiting for your name to be called. You are the author of a story where every event, especially the difficult ones, is a crucial plot point you would not edit out. Your worth becomes untouchable because it is no longer conditional on winning the approval of others, but is demonstrated by your powerful, embracing response to whatever life delivers. That embrace of fate requires a vantage point far beyond your own immediate feelings. The fourth philosophy is the view from above, a mental exercise of cosmic zoom. Close your eyes for a moment and pull your perspective back, not just to the ceiling of your room, but through the roof above your neighborhood, your city. See the continent sprawl beneath you, then the whole blue marble of Earth hanging in the black silence of space. From here, look for your life. Can you see the office where you worried about a co-worker's opinion? Can you spot the coffee shop where you anxiously awaited a text reply? Those spaces and the social dramas within them vanish into the sheer scale of the planet. Now zoom further. See our sun as a star, our solar system as a speck, our galaxy as one of billions. In this cosmic theater, the question of whether you are picked for a team, included in a conversation, or validated by a like becomes so infinitesimally small it loses all its weight. This is not about making your life feel meaningless, but about freeing it from the tyranny of the microscopic social moment. Your ego, that fragile thing so desperate for recognition, cannot survive at this altitude. It is humbled by the grandeur of existence. The Stoics practiced this to cultivate what they called cosmic consciousness, the serene understanding that we are brief, beautiful participants in an immense and ongoing process. Your personal struggle for approval is like a single grain of sand on a beach frantically worrying if the grain next to likes it. From the view of the ocean, that concern is impossible to even perceive. How do you practice this when you feel that old anxiety rising? You can use actual imagery. Keep a photograph of Earth from space, the pale blue dot, as your phone's lock screen. When you feel the heat of social rejection or the chill of being overlooked, unlock your phone and look at that image. Breathe. Your drama is happening on that dot. It creates instant distance. Another method is the timeline visualization. Picture your current worry. Now project your mind forward 1 year. Will this specific moment of not being picked matter? Now 5 years, now 50. See your entire life as a line, and this moment as a barely perceptible point on it. Finally, project backward. Think of all the humans who have ever lived, with their own intense hopes and heartbreaks, their own social hierarchies and desperate needs to belong. Not a single one of those urgent social calculations remains. They have all been absorbed into history, just as yours will be. This practice does not make you apathetic. It makes you selective. It asks from this cosmic perspective, what truly merits my emotional energy? Does the quiet judgment of a passing acquaintance deserve the same weight as showing up with love for your family? Does a social media algorithm's distribution of your post compare to the real-world impact of your kindness? The view from above filters out the noise of petty validation and allows the signal of your true purpose to come through clearly. When you operate from this expanded vantage point, the need to be picked by any particular person or group feels like a child's game you have simply outgrown. You are no longer a contestant in a tiny pageant. You are a conscious part of the universe itself, and that is the only membership that ultimately matters. That cosmic perspective makes every social slight feel small, but it also frames the most urgent question of all. How much time do you actually have to play these games? The fifth philosophy is a direct confrontation with that limit, memento mori, the Latin phrase meaning remember you must die. This is not a morbid fixation or a call to live in fear. It is the most liberating reminder you can give yourself. Think of it as a mental hourglass you keep in clear view. The sand is always flowing, and seeing it reminds you that this moment, this day, this life is not a rehearsal. It is the only performance you get. When you truly internalize that your time here is finite, a profound filter clicks into place. All the trivial anxieties, the desperate performances for approval, the hours spent crafting an image, suddenly appear for what they are, a reckless waste of your most precious and non-renewable resource, your attention. Pick-me energy is the architecture of a life lived on deferral. You tell yourself, once I get their approval, then I will be happy. Once I am picked for that group, then I will feel secure. Memento mori shatters that illusion of a future payoff. It asks, what if that approval never comes? What if you spend your entire brief life waiting in the wings for an applause that is perpetually delayed? The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful men, kept a physical reminder of this on his desk. It was not a symbol of his empire, but a human skull. He wrote in his private journal, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He used that stark object to cut through the noise of court politics, the flattery of sycophants, the petty grievances of leadership. It grounded him in what mattered, living with virtue and purpose now, not for some future legacy or the fleeting cheers of a crowd. For us, the application is even more direct. When you feel yourself bending your personality to fit in, or withholding your true opinion to avoid conflict, pause and ask the memento mori question. On my last day, will I be glad I spent my energy this way? Will I be proud that I muted my own voice for the comfort of people whose names I may not even remember in a decade? The answer is almost always a visceral no. This practice does not make you reckless, it makes you ruthlessly intentional. It shifts your focus from being liked to being real, from being chosen to choosing yourself every single day. You start to measure your actions against the yardstick of your own mortality, not the yardstick of public opinion. Why spend an hour agonizing over a social media caption designed to impress strangers when you could spend that hour calling an old friend, reading a book that changes your perspective, or starting that project you have been putting off? Remembering death kills pick-me energy because it highlights the ultimate absurdity of seeking permanent validation in a temporary life. You are a flame that will one day go out. The question is not how brightly you burned in the eyes of others, but whether you burned with your own authentic fuel. Start small. Place a simple object on your nightstand, a smooth stone, an old watch that has stopped, anything that symbolizes impermanence to you. Let it be the first thing you see in the morning. Let it whisper, "This day is a gift, do not trade it for cheap validation." When you make a decision, big or small, let the thought cross your mind, if this were my last year, my last month, my last week, would I do it this way? You will find the needy performances falling away, replaced by a quiet, urgent clarity. The fear of not being picked is swallowed by the far greater motivation to not waste your one wild life. That hourglass of mortality focuses your energy on what you build within the limited time you have. This brings us to the sixth philosophy, the construction of an inner citadel. The Stoics envisioned the mind not as an open field, vulnerable to every passing wind of opinion, but as a fortress. Your core self, your values, and your reasoned judgments are housed within walls you alone can reinforce. Insults, flattery, social exclusion, the very currency of pick-me anxiety, are like arrows shot at this fortress. They may clatter against the outer walls, but they cannot penetrate the inner keep unless you open the gates and invite them in. Your peace resides in the central tower, undisturbed by the noise outside. Building this citadel is the daily discipline of refusing to let external events dictate your internal state. It begins with a simple, powerful realization: no one can make you feel anything without your consent. When someone criticizes you, their words are just sound waves in the air. The sting, the shame, the defensive anger, those are your interpretations. You are the gatekeeper who decides whether to let those interpretations inside to wreak havoc. A person with strong inner walls hears an insult and thinks that is their opinion, which they are entitled to. It may be based on a misunderstanding, on their own bad day, or on a truth I can choose to consider or dismiss. Then they close the gate, the insult dissipates against the stone. Conversely, flattery is just as dangerous to inner peace. The person desperate for validation hears praise and flings the gates wide open, welcoming the pleasant invader, letting it define their worth. But this, too, hands control to the outside. When the flattery stops, as it always does, the citadel feels empty and cold. The Stoic keeps the gates guarded equally against attack and bribery. Your sense of self must be built on the bedrock of your own actions and character, not on the compliments or condemnations of others. How do you actually lay this brick and mortar? Start with your morning intention. Before you engage with the world, define your inner law for the day. Today, my worth is based on my effort, my honesty, and my kindness. I will not let a rude comment derail that. I will not let a compliment inflate it. This intention is the blueprint. Then, throughout the day, you conduct small drills. When you receive a piece of feedback, pause before reacting. Imagine the words arriving at your fortress gate. Ask, is this useful information for my growth, or is it merely an attempt to provoke or please me? If it is useful, take the data inside calmly, like accepting a scroll. If it is just noise, leave it outside. When you feel the pang of being left out of a social gathering, observe the feeling at the gate. Acknowledge it, but do not let it storm the courtyard. Remind yourself, my joy is not contingent on every invitation. My inner citadel contains its own sources of fulfillment, my projects, my thoughts, my solitude. This practice of mental fortification directly kills pick-me energy by making you immune to its triggers. The fear of not being picked is a fear of social exile, of being left outside the walls of a group. But when you have built your own magnificent, self-sufficient fortress, you are never truly outside. You are always home, you are always safe. The question shifts from, will they let me in, to, do I even wish to visit their camp today? This is the ultimate power, the sovereignty of self. You are no longer a wandering refugee seeking shelter in anyone else's approval. You are the unshakable ruler of your own domain. That inner citadel is built with a specific material, virtue. But here is the crucial distinction the Stoics insisted upon. You do not build it to be admired from the outside. The seventh philosophy strips all performance from goodness itself. Act with virtue, not for reward. For the Stoic, the only true good is the virtuous action itself, performed with right intention. The four cardinal virtues are your blueprint: wisdom to see what is true, courage to act on it, justice to treat others fairly, and temperance to govern your own impulses. The moment you act primarily to receive praise, affection, or a ticket into an inner circle, you have corrupted the action at its source. You are no longer building your citadel, you are painting a facade to impress the neighbors. This philosophy is a direct surgical strike on pick-me energy, because that energy is precisely the corruption of virtue into performance. Think of the person who volunteers for a charity primarily to post about it, whose generosity is contingent on being seen. Or the one who agrees with a group's opinion, suppressing their own, not from a place of communal wisdom, but from a desperate fear of exclusion. The action may look similar on the surface, but the internal architecture is completely different. One is a solid stone wall, the other is a stage flat that collapses at the first strong wind. The Stoic finds their entire satisfaction in the doing of the right thing. Did you speak honestly, even when it was uncomfortable? That is the win. Did you show up for a friend in need without needing them to later proclaim you a hero? That is the reward. The outcome, whether you are thanked, celebrated, or even noticed, becomes irrelevant. This makes you beautifully, powerfully indifferent to whether your virtue earns you a spot in someone's life. You are not being good to be picked. You are being good because it is who you are. The modern parallel is what we often call virtue signaling, a public display of moral values designed to win social approval. The Stoic would see this as the ultimate poverty. It trades the rich, private satisfaction of authentic character for the cheap coin of public esteem. It makes you a slave to the next round of applause. How do you practice this in daily life? It starts with interrogating your own motives. Before you do something you consider good, pause and ask yourself quietly, why am I really doing this? Is it because it aligns with my core values of justice or kindness, or is there a secret hope for recognition tucked inside? If you detect that hope, it does not mean you should not do the thing. It means you must perform a mental purification, acknowledge the desire for reward, then consciously set it aside. Decide, I will do this because it is right, period. Then act. The feeling afterwards is profoundly different. When you help a colleague without mentioning it to your boss, you carry a quiet strength. When you express a dissenting opinion calmly because it is true, not because you want to seem bold, you own that truth completely. You are no longer a performer on the social stage, hoping for a callback. You are the playwright, the director, and the sole audience of your own moral integrity. Your worth becomes untradeable because it is demonstrated in actions that are their own reward. This is how you starve the pick-me mindset, by removing its favorite food, the hunger for external moral validation. You feed yourself instead on the substantial nourishment of knowing in your deepest self that you acted well. That inner fortress of virtue is tested not in calm times but in the storm. Every obstacle you face is not a sign the universe is against you. It is the raw material your character needs to grow. The eighth philosophy is a complete reframing of reality itself. See obstacles as opportunities. This is not naive optimism, but a practical alchemy. The Stoics believed that every barrier, every rejection, every frustration contains within it the very ingredient you need to practice a specific virtue. The impediment itself shows you the way forward. Marcus Aurelius, leading an empire through plague and war, wrote this stark truth in his private journal: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Let that sink in. The thing blocking your path is not a dead end, it is the path. For someone stuck in pick-me energy, this is revolutionary. Your entire mindset shifts from "why is this happening to me" to "what is this asking me to become?" Take rejection, the core wound of that needy mindset. You are not picked for the team, the date, the job. The old story is one of personal failure, a verdict on your worth. The Stoic reframe sees it as a direct invitation to practice courage, the courage to face disappointment without crumbling, the courage to persist, the courage to redefine your path. The obstacle of rejection advances the action of building resilience. Or consider being overlooked, left out of a conversation or a social plan. The pick-me reaction is a frantic internal plea: what is wrong with me? The Stoic sees this as a prime opportunity to practice temperance, self-governance, and self-reliance. The obstacle of social exclusion advances the action of finding contentment within your own company, of learning that your joy is not held hostage by an invitation list. It trains you to be the source of your own validation. This reframing obliterates the victim mentality. You are no longer a passive target of circumstance, wondering why they do not pick you. You become an active architect, asking, what can I build from this very moment? The energy that was once entirely consumed by lamenting your misfortune is suddenly freed up and redirected into purposeful growth. Imagine a young artist whose work is consistently rejected from traditional galleries. The pick-me artist grows bitter, alters their style to chase trends, and slowly loses their unique voice, all in a desperate bid to be chosen. The artist who sees obstacles as opportunities takes those same rejections and thinks, this obstacle is showing me the way. Perhaps the way is to build my own audience online where I have full control. Perhaps it is telling me to hone my craft with even more ferocity until it becomes undeniable. Perhaps it is teaching me the courage to define success on my own terms. The rejection is not a stop sign, it is a detour sign pointing toward a more authentic destination. You can apply this today with any minor irritation. Stuck in a long, unexpected line, the obstacle of wasted time becomes an opportunity to practice patience, or to observe the world around you with curiosity, or to simply stand in peaceful silence, a rare virtue in our noisy world. Receive harsh, unfair criticism. The obstacle of someone's misplaced anger becomes an opportunity to practice justice by responding with calm clarity instead of reflexive rage, and wisdom by sifting the feedback for any tiny useful grain of truth. This practice systematically dismantles the idea that your flourishing depends on everything going smoothly, on everyone accepting you. It depends only on your ability to transform whatever happens into fuel for your development. When you master this, you stop fearing obstacles. You begin to greet them with a strange sense of recognition, as if each one is a custom-designed training session for your soul. The question, "Will I be picked?" loses all its power because you are too busy being forged by the very things that seem to stand in your way. Forged by obstacles, your sense of self grows beyond the walls of any single room. This expansion leads to the ninth philosophy, a citizenship of the world. The ancient Stoics called this cosmopolitanism, the radical idea that you are first and foremost a member of the entire human race, a citizen of the cosmos itself. Your primary identity is not as a fan of a certain team, an employee of a specific company, or a member of a particular social clique. You are a rational being, sharing in the same spark of consciousness as every other person on the planet. This single shift in perspective is a death sentence for cliquish, tribal pick-me energy. That desperate need arises from believing your survival, your worth, depends on being accepted into a small, exclusive group. It makes that group's approval the sun around which your emotional world orbits. But what if your belonging was already guaranteed by a much larger, unshakable law of existence? Cosmopolitanism grants you that. Your worth is inherent, not earned by conforming to a subculture's latest trend or laughing at the right inside jokes. You belong to the human project by birthright. This does not mean you abandon your close friendships or local communities. It means you see them as beautiful, specific neighborhoods within your vast global city. You can enjoy your neighborhood without believing it is the only place you are allowed to exist. When you internalize this, the fear of being exiled from one small group loses its terrifying power. You realize you can never truly be exiled from humanity itself. Your actions are then guided by a different principle, the universal law of kindness and justice toward all fellow citizens. You help a stranger not because they might like you for it, but because they are your kin in the grand scheme. You disagree with a colleague not to win points with a rival faction, but to seek a truth that benefits the whole. Your need for approval from any specific set of people diminishes because you are playing for a team so large it includes them, you, and everyone else. Imagine you are at a party, feeling that old anxiety about fitting in with the cool circle in the corner. The pick-me mindset has you rehearsing lines, monitoring your laughter, trying to catch their eye. The cosmopolitan mindset looks around the same room and sees something else entirely. You see individuals, each with their own fears and dreams, each a citizen of the same world you inhabit. You might still choose to speak to that group, but you do so from a place of curiosity and shared humanity, not from a place of lack. Your sense of wholeness is not waiting for their validation, because it is already confirmed by your connection to the person serving drinks, the friend you came with, and the billions of souls beyond the walls. This philosophy encourages a profound, quiet confidence. You walk into any room, any online space, any new situation carrying your universal passport. You do not need to beg for a visa from the local social gatekeepers. You belong there by virtue of your shared existence. This kills the performative, shape-shifting energy because you are no longer trying to become a local. You are a dignified visitor from the wider world, interested in connection but not defined by it. Start practicing this by simply noticing language. When you think or say, "my people," ask yourself who is excluded from that circle. Then consciously expand the circle in your mind. See the delivery person, the barrister, the person with opposing political views, all as your fellow citizens, flawed and human like you. Your task is not to be picked by a few, but to engage with the many from a place of inherent, unshakable belonging. This universal citizenship frees you from tribal anxiety, but it does not make you immune to loss. The fear of losing what you do have, the relationships and status you have managed to secure, can quietly fuel that same needy energy. The 10th philosophy confronts that fear head-on with a deliberate mental rehearsal called negative visualization. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is the practice of regularly, calmly contemplating the loss of the things you cherish most. You sit in a quiet moment and you visualize in vivid detail what it would be like if your closest friend moved away, if you lost your job, if your social standing vanished, if your health declined. This is not pessimistic wallowing, it is a psychological vaccine. By exposing your mind to a controlled dose of the very fear that pick-me energy runs from, you build immunity. The desperation to be chosen and to stay chosen is rooted in a terror of the alternative, of being cast out, alone, and worthless. Negative visualization forces you to walk into that dark room and turn on the light. You systematically imagine the scenario. Your friend tells you they are leaving. You feel the initial pang, the sadness. You picture the empty chair where they used to sit. You walk through the following days, the quiet, the adjustment, and then you ask the crucial question, what then? What would I actually do? You would grieve and then you would adapt. You would reach out to other people. You would fill your time with new pursuits. You would discover strength you did not know you had. You realize with a profound and calming certainty that you would endure. You would not cease to exist. Your core self, your capacity for resilience would remain intact. This realization is liberation. When you have already faced the worst-case social loss in your mind and seen yourself survive it, the daily anxiety of not being included in a group chat or not getting an invitation loses its fangs. You have already been to the bottom of that well and found it is not bottomless, just dark for a while. The practice serves a second beautiful purpose. It generates a fierce, present-moment gratitude. By mentally removing the people and comforts you have, you stop taking them for granted. You look at your friend across the table and think, not with anxiety, but with clear-eyed appreciation, this is a gift that may not always be here. Let me cherish it now. This kills the pick-me energy because that energy is always future-focused, always bargaining for security it can never guarantee. I must be picked today so I am not alone tomorrow. Negative visualization brings you firmly into the now, to love what you have without clinging to it in fear. You enjoy the connection without needing to control its permanence. Start small tonight. Before you go to sleep, take one thing you value in your social world. Perhaps it is your standing in a community group or the easy rapport with a colleague. Close your eyes and imagine it is gone. Picture the silence where the interaction used to be. Sit with the feeling for a full minute, then slowly begin to sketch out the next steps you would take. You will feel a subtle shift, a loosening of the desperate grip. That thing you are so afraid of losing becomes something you are grateful to have while you have it. Your happiness detaches from its necessity. You are no longer a beggar at the feast, terrified the food will run out. You become a grateful guest, savoring each bite, knowing that even if the meal ends, you will find nourishment elsewhere. That gratitude for what you have, without clinging to it, rests on a foundation only you can inspect. The 11th philosophy is a declaration of independence. Your opinion of you is the only one that matters. This is not a license for arrogance or self-delusion. It is the logical conclusion of everything we have built so far. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, born a slave, knew more about true freedom than most emperors. He framed the core idea with stark clarity. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. We can extend his wisdom directly into the social arena. It is not what they think of you, but what you think of yourself that defines you. Every moment you spend anxiously tailoring your actions to elicit a specific opinion from someone else, you are voluntarily placing their judgment above your own. You are making them the master of your inner state. Epictetus called this the very essence of slavery, not chains of iron, but the invisible chains of caring too much about another person's appraisal. True freedom, then, is found in the courtroom of your own mind, where you are the sole and final judge. Your self-assessment must be based on evidence, not on feeling. The Stoics provided the rubric virtue. Did you act with wisdom today, or did you act from impulse? Did you show courage in speaking a difficult truth, or did you choose the comfort of silence? Were you just in your dealings? Were you temperate in your desires? These are the questions that matter. They have nothing to do with whether you were popular, charming, or included. This is a radical shift from comparing your highlight reel to someone else's. Comparison is the engine of pick-me energy, always measuring your insides against other people's outsides, always finding yourself lacking. Honest self-evaluation based on virtue ignores the external scoreboard entirely. It asks, against my own standards of character, how did I do? The tools for this are simple but demanding. The evening review we discussed earlier becomes your daily audit. But instead of asking, did they like me, you ask a different set of questions. Where today did I follow my principles, and where did I compromise them for approval? When I felt slighted, did I respond with patience or with petty resentment? Did my actions align with the person I aspire to be, regardless of who was watching? This practice dismantles the need for external validation piece by piece, because you are building something far more reliable in its place, a trustworthy relationship with yourself. You become the authority you used to seek in others, when you know with concrete evidence from your own actions that you acted with integrity. The silence or criticism of others loses its power to shake you. Their opinion becomes mere data, a perspective you can consider with calm detachment, not a verdict you must obey. This is how you reclaim your sovereignty. You stop outsourcing your self-worth to a fickle, distracted world. You bring the job in-house. But what are those core principles built upon? They are not arbitrary rules you invent. The 12th philosophy grounds them in the most fundamental law of all: live in accordance with nature. For the Stoics, this was the entire purpose of life. To live according to nature means to live rationally and virtuously, in harmony with your own human nature and the greater nature of the cosmos. Think of a tree. It does not struggle to be a river or a stone. It simply fulfills its nature as a tree, growing toward the light, sinking roots deep, bearing leaves and fruit when the season is right. Its actions flow from its essential design. Human nature has a specific design too. We are, by nature, social creatures. We form families, communities, and societies. But we are also, and this is the crucial counterweight, rational creatures. We possess the faculty of reason to discern truth, to make choices, to govern our impulses, and to be self-sufficient. Pick-me energy is a profound distortion of this natural design. It wildly overemphasizes the social part of our nature, the need to belong, while completely abandoning the rational, self-sufficient part. It is like a tree that is so desperate to be near other trees that it uproots itself and tries to walk, exhausting itself and withering in the process. It is unnatural. Living according to nature is the correction. It means honoring both parts of your design. Yes, you seek connection and contribute to your community, but you do so from a foundation of inner integrity, guided by your reason. Your actions flow from your core principles, not from a frantic, shape-shifting adaptation to what you think others want from you. That constant performance is a violation of your nature. It is exhausting because you are fighting against your own rational core, trying to force it to be a mirror for others. Imagine you are in a meeting where a popular but ethically questionable idea is gaining traction. The pick-me part of you, the overgrown social limb, screams to go along, to be part of the group, to gain their approval. But your rational nature, your core, assesses the idea and finds it flawed or unjust. Living according to nature means listening to that rational voice. It means you might speak up, calmly offering a different perspective, not to rebel for rebellion's sake, but because it is in your nature as a rational being to seek truth and justice. You balance your social desire for harmony with your rational duty to integrity. The connection you seek is then authentic, built on the real you, not a performance. This philosophy makes your choices clear and strangely effortless. When faced with a decision, you simply ask, does this action align with my rational, virtuous nature, or is it a desperate, unnatural grab for external validation? Would I do this if no one was ever going to know about it? If the answer is no, you are likely stepping out of accordance with your own nature. This is how you cultivate a quiet magnetism that has nothing to do with neediness. A tree that is deeply rooted, healthy, and fulfilling its purpose naturally attracts birds and shade seekers. It does not beg for their attention, it simply is. When you live from your rational, virtuous core, you become like that tree. People are drawn to your stability, your authenticity, your lack of desperation. You are not picked because you performed well, you are connected with because you are real, and that is the most natural and therefore the most sustainable form of belonging there is. That rational core is your anchor, but the waves of social life keep coming. An impression hits you, a sharp feeling of being left out when you see the photos online, a flush of embarrassment when your comment is ignored in a meeting. The 13th philosophy gives you a split-second tool to disarm that impression before it detonates. This is the discipline of assent. In Stoic psychology, our minds are constantly bombarded by impressions, what they called fantasiae. These are not just images, but the initial, raw interpretations of events. Someone doesn't text you back, and the immediate impression is, they are ignoring me, I am not important to them. That impression carries with it a judgment and, more importantly, an emotional charge. The untrained mind instantly assents to it. It grabs onto that interpretation as absolute truth, and off you go on the emotional spiral of anxiety, resentment, and that desperate need to fix it, to prove you are worthy of a reply. The discipline of assent is the conscious, deliberate pause between the impression and your endorsement of it. It is the mental equivalent of catching a ball before it knocks over a vase. You see the photos of the gathering you were not invited to. The impression arrives hot and heavy. They don't value me, I am on the outside. This is the critical moment. Instead of letting that impression become your reality, you insert a question. You challenge the impression with logic. Is this interpretation necessarily true? Could there be 100 other, more benign explanations? Perhaps it was a last-minute casual thing. Perhaps the host assumed you were busy. Perhaps it simply was not your kind of event. You interrogate the impression's central claim. Does this event actually harm me? Does not being in these few photographs diminish my character, my abilities, my capacity for joy? The answer, when you reason it out, is almost always no. It is an external event. It is the judgment you attach to it that creates the suffering. By pausing to question, you withhold your assent from the initial catastrophic interpretation. You do not have to believe every thought that storms into your mind. This practice builds a filter of immense emotional resilience. You learn to assent only to reasoned judgments, not to every social slight that comes your way. The feeling of being slighted may still arise, that is natural, but it no longer has the power to hijack your entire inner state. It becomes a passing weather pattern in your mind, not a permanent climate. You stop automatically interpreting non-selection as a personal catastrophe. In a work setting, you give a presentation and a colleague immediately points out a flaw. The initial impression is one of attack, of public humiliation. The old pick-me energy would have you either crumbling defensively or scrambling to ingratiate yourself afterward. With a discipline of assent, you catch that impression. You pause. You ask, is this feedback an attack on me, or is it data about my work? Is this person trying to harm me, or are they, however clumsily, trying to improve the project? By assenting only to the more reasoned interpretation, you can respond with calm gratitude instead of prickly defensiveness. You remain centered in your own worth, independent of the critique. This discipline turns you from a reactive pinball, bouncing off every bump of social friction, into a calm observer in the center of the storm. You realize that most of the pain you experience from not being picked is not in the event itself, but in the story you instantly agree to tell yourself about it. When you master the pause, you reclaim the author's pen. That pause between impression and reaction is a space of immense power, but it is a space we must actively choose to enter. The discipline of assent is a gatekeeper, but what determines which impressions even make it to the gate? This brings us to the 14th philosophy, the discipline of desire. Your desires are the engine of your life. They are what pull you forward, what you reach for. Pick-me energy is at its core a specific and disordered set of desires. It is the craving for external validation, the hunger for popularity, the ache for exclusive inclusion. These desires are directed outward, toward things you do not control, and that is why they cause such relentless anxiety. You are a sailor desperately trying to command the wind. The Stoic discipline of desire is the radical recalibration of that engine. It asks you to train your wants to align only with what is virtuous and truly within your control. You stop desiring to be liked and start desiring to be wise. You stop craving the spotlight and start cultivating courage. You release the need to be included and you nurture self-respect. The object of your desire shifts from an external trophy to an internal state of being. When you no longer fundamentally desire to be picked in that needy, performative way, the entire anxious structure built upon that desire simply collapses. The fear of not getting what you want vanishes because what you now want is something you can always give yourself. How do you begin this retraining? It starts with a ruthless audit. Take a quiet moment and write down the social desires that have been driving you lately. I want my boss to praise me in the team meeting. I want to be invited to that party. I want to get 100 likes on my post. Look at each one and apply the 2 filters we have built. Is this desire within my control? Is it aligned with virtue? The answer to the first is almost always no. You cannot control your boss's words, the host's guest list, or the algorithms of a platform. The answer to the second requires honesty. Is the desire for praise rooted in a virtuous wish for recognition of good work, or is it a hungry need for a self-esteem boost from an authority figure? Often it is the latter. Once you have identified a disordered desire, you practice the exercise of renunciation. Choose one for a single day. Today, I renounce the desire for my colleague to agree with me. Or today, I renounce the desire for anyone to comment on my new haircut. You go through the day holding that intention. When the old urge arises, you notice it, you name it, and you consciously let it go. You do not act from that place. Instead, you replace it with a virtuous desire you can fulfill. Instead of wanting their agreement, you desire to express your own view with clarity and respect. Instead of wanting comments on your hair, you desire to carry yourself with confidence regardless of anyone's notice. The freedom you experience is immediate and palpable. It is the freedom of no longer being a puppet whose strings are pulled by the potential reactions of others. You are moving through the world powered by your own chosen fuel. A powerful modern analogy is dieting. If you desire a specific number on the scale, something outside your full control, every way in is an emotional roller coaster. But if you shift your desire to the virtuous actions within your control, to eat nourishing food, to move your body with joy, to respect its needs, then every day is a success regardless of the scale. The outcome may still come, but it is a side effect, not the source of your worth. Apply this to social hunger. Stop desiring the relationship and start desiring to be a loving, trustworthy person. Stop desiring the promotion and start desiring to do excellent, principled work. When your deepest wants are for things you can cultivate internally, you become unshakable. The world's choices to pick you or not become mere data points on your journey, not the destination itself. You are no longer begging for scraps from life's table. You have learned to cook your own feast, and you dine with the contentment of true self-mastery. Your desires are now aligned, but they must be translated into motion. The 15th philosophy is the discipline of action, the final piece that ensures your outward behavior matches your inward realignment. This discipline asks you to perform every single action, especially your social ones, with two guiding stars: right intention and the common good. This is the precise antidote to the performative, self-serving kindness that pick-me energy so often disguises itself as. Think of the person who volunteers only when it is visible or offers help primarily to indebt someone to them. Their action looks virtuous, but the intention is transactional, a covert bid for social capital. The discipline of action strips that away. It demands that you act for the benefit of the wider human community, your cosmopolitan citizenship in practice, and that you find your satisfaction in the action itself, not in any personal reward. Your focus shifts permanently from "what can I get from this interaction" to "what can I contribute through this action." This shift is monumental. When you are contributing to a larger story, your need to be the star of a small one evaporates. You are no longer auditioning for a role in a clique. You are playing a necessary part in the human saga. Your sense of worth becomes tied to your usefulness, to your positive impact, which is something you can measure and feel regardless of who notices. How does this look in daily life? It starts with interrogating your own acts of so-called generosity. Are you giving a compliment because you genuinely see something admirable, or because you hope it will make the person like you? Are you agreeing with someone because their point is wise, or because you fear the friction of disagreement? The discipline of action calls you to purify the motive. Act from a place of genuine goodwill, period. The action is its own completion. A powerful example is mentorship. The pick-me mentor mentors to feel important, to be seen as an expert, to create a loyal follower. Their guidance is often conditional on gratitude and deference. The Stoic, cosmopolitan mentor mentors because it is just to share knowledge, because it serves the common good to elevate another capable person. Their satisfaction comes from the act of teaching itself, from seeing the other person grow. If the mentee later becomes more successful or moves on, the true mentor feels pride, not betrayal, because the action was never a transaction for loyalty. This discipline also applies to how you handle your work. Are you completing a task to impress your manager and be seen as the top pick? Or are you doing it to the best of your ability because it serves the team, the client, the quality of the project itself? When your intention is service to the common good, the quality of your work naturally rises and the anxiety about who gets credit fades. You become a reliable, valuable contributor, not a spotlight-seeking performer. People begin to trust your actions because they sense the purity of your intention. You are not maneuvering, you are building. This builds a deep, unshakable form of self-respect. You know you are acting with integrity for a purpose larger than your own social standing. That knowledge is a fortress. When you are contributing to the world in this way, the occasional social snub or exclusion feels like a minor distraction. You are too busy building something meaningful to obsess over who is sitting at which lunch table. Your life has a narrative weight that makes high school-style social politics seem trivial. You stop needing to be picked for the popular team because you are already drafted onto the only team that ultimately matters, the one working in countless small ways to make the human experiment a little better. Your worth is confirmed every time you act from this place with no external validation required. That discipline of action often speaks loudest in what you choose not to say. The 16th philosophy is a practice of power through restraint, the cultivation of silence and deep listening. In a world that rewards constant noise and self-promotion, the Stoics placed immense value on speaking only what is necessary, true, and kind. The pick-me person violates this principle constantly. They talk too much, overshare personal details to forge false intimacy, and agree excessively with whoever holds social power, all in a frantic attempt to be seen, validated, and included. Their speech is not an expression of self, but a performance for an audience. This chatter is a leak of energy, a dispersal of your inner calm into the anxious ether. The Stoic practice of deliberate silence is the plug for that leak. It is not about being shy or disengaged. It is a conscious, strategic choice to hold your peace. You listen, truly listen, to understand the other person, not just to wait for your turn to speak. You observe the social dynamics of a room without feeling a compulsive need to insert yourself into every conversation to prove your worth. This quiet observation becomes a source of immense intelligence and calm. You start to see who is speaking from ego, who is seeking validation, and where genuine connection might actually be possible. Your silence is not empty, it is full of presence. It projects a confidence that does not need to fill the air with sound to exist. Think of the most assured person you know in a meeting. They are often the one who speaks last after listening to everyone else. Their words, when they come, are measured and carry weight precisely because they were not rushed. They did not need to prove they were the smartest in the first 5 minutes. Their silence was a demonstration of security. This practice directly attacks the need to be the center of attention. When you feel that old urge to jump in with a story to top someone else's, or to nervously fill a lull in conversation with chatter about yourself, you pause. You take a breath inward instead of expelling words outward. You ask yourself the Stoic filter: is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If it fails any of these, you maintain your composed silence. This does not make you a wallflower, it makes you an anchor. People begin to feel heard around you, and that is a rare and attractive quality. It builds trust far faster than any amount of witty banter or strategic agreement. Your value becomes apparent through your calm perception, not through your desperate vocal gymnastics. Start practicing this in low-stakes environments. Next time you are in a group conversation, challenge yourself to speak 50% less than you normally would. Do not merely wait your turn, but actively listen to the content and the subtext. Notice the shift in your own body, the release of that performative tension. Notice how your fewer words seem to land with more impact. This quiet assurance stems from the secure internal foundation Stoicism builds. When you know your worth, you do not need to announce it. You can afford to be silent because your validation is not hanging in the balance of every sentence you utter. The room does not need to be constantly reminded you are in it. Your peaceful, attentive presence is reminder enough. That quiet, listening presence gives you a clearer view of the people you once sought approval from. The 17th philosophy is a deliberate act of perception. See the humanity in others. The pick-me mindset secretly deifies the very people whose validation it craves. It turns the popular colleague, the aloof love interest, the influential social gatekeeper into an oracle, their judgment the final word on your worth. But oracles are distant, cold, and inhuman. Stoicism asks you to shatter that illusion with a simple, grounding truth. Every single person you put on a pedestal is a flawed, struggling human being just like you. They wake up with anxieties, they have insecurities they hide, they worry about their health, their finances, their own social standing. They too have moments where they feel like an imposter, desperate for someone else's approval. When you recognize this, their opinion loses its divine weight and becomes simply that, an opinion from another mortal on a difficult journey. This is not an exercise in disrespect or cynicism. It is an act of profound equalization that restores your own dignity. You are not a supplicant kneeling before a throne. You are one traveler offering a nod to another on the same rocky path. The moment you demystify someone, you reclaim your power. Their rejection is no longer a celestial decree, but a human choice, likely filtered through their own fears, biases, and limited perspective. Perhaps the person who overlooked you for the project was distracted by a personal worry. Maybe the friend who seems cool and dismissive is nursing a private hurt. The person whose social circle you long to join is probably performing just as hard within it, anxious about maintaining their own position. Seeing this humanity is like turning on the lights in a haunted house. The terrifying shapes resolve into ordinary furniture. Their power to define you evaporates. Consider a common scenario. You give a presentation and your stoic-faced manager offers no praise, only a few critiques. The deified view sees this as a devastating verdict from an all-knowing judge, proof you are not good enough. The humanized view sees a tired person who has sat through 10 presentations that day, who may be under pressure from their own boss, and who, in their focus on finding flaws to improve, forgot the basic human courtesy of acknowledging effort. Their critique might still contain useful data, but it is no longer a verdict on your soul. It is feedback from a fallible coworker. This practice extends to social media idols. That influencer with the perfect life, whose approval you might secretly crave, is a person who likely battles comparison, deals with cruel comments, and curates a highlight reel to manage their own insecurities. Seeking their validation is especially absurd. You are seeking a pick-me from someone who is professionally engaged in their own performance of being picked. The most practical way to apply this is through a mental exercise. When you feel that old awe or fear of someone's judgment, pause and construct a brief, compassionate backstory for them. Imagine them as a child nervous on their first day of school. Picture them feeling embarrassed after a mistake or lying awake at night worrying about a parent's health. See them needing a friend's reassurance. This is not making things up. It is acknowledging the universal human reality that is always there beneath the social surface. It equalizes the dynamic instantly. You realize that seeking their exclusive approval is like seeking navigation from another passenger on a bumpy flight, not from the pilot. You are both just trying to get through the turbulence, neither of you in ultimate control. Your worth cannot be certified by someone who is themselves uncertified. When you see others clearly in their full, beautiful, anxious humanity, you stop needing them to see you as anything other than human too. The desperate performance ends and a possibility for genuine connection, flawed and real, can finally begin. That clear vision of shared humanity dissolves the last remnants of the performance. When you truly see others as they are, you realize the exhausting game was never necessary. This brings us to the 18th philosophy, a state of being so liberating it feels like a deep exhale after holding your breath for years, the mindset of having nothing to prove and nothing to hide. This is not a single technique, but the beautiful synthesis of everything we have built. Your self-worth, now anchored in the bedrock of your own virtuous character rather than the shifting sands of achievement or status, means you have nothing to prove. Your consistent actions, guided by integrity and the discipline of ascent, mean you have nothing to hide. The desperate, watchful tension of the pick-me persona melts away, replaced by a relaxed and authentic presence. That needy energy is always in a state of frantic proving, and almost always in a state of hiding, concealing true doubts, insecurities, or opinions that might risk rejection. The Stoic mind, in contrast, rests in a state of peaceful transparency. Think of two people entering a room. The first walks in with their social resume mentally prepared, their antennae tuned to every potential judgment, their smile calibrated to please. Their energy is a low hum of anxiety, a subtle vibration of need. The second person walks in simply as themselves. They are not rehearsing lines or scanning for threats. They are present, open, and curiously engaged with the environment and the people in it. Their energy is calm, grounded, and available. Which person would you rather be, and which would you rather talk to? The answer is almost always the second. This authenticity, rooted in radical self-acceptance of your own flawed humanity, becomes a magnetic force. But here is the crucial distinction: it is magnetic without any effort to attract. You are not being authentic as a strategy to win friends. That would just be another, more subtle performance. You are being authentic because the alternative, the constant proving and hiding, has become too exhausting and too contrary to your nature. You accept that some people will resonate with the real you and some will not, and you are finally at peace with that fact. This is where the right connections find you. When you have nothing to prove, you do not overwhelm people with your achievements or opinions. You create space for them to be themselves. When you have nothing to hide, you foster trust because people sense the congruence between your words and your actions. They are not waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the curated image to slip. You are not selling an image, you are just being. And in a world saturated with personal branding and curated personas, just being is a rare and refreshing gift. Imagine a work scenario where a mistake is discovered. The person with something to prove will deflect, minimize, or hide the error to protect their image as the competent star. The person with nothing to prove and nothing to hide will simply acknowledge it, take responsibility, and focus on the solution. Their credibility does not plummet, it soars because their character remains consistent. In friendships, this looks like being able to say no without a lengthy, apologetic excuse, because your worth in the relationship is not contingent on perpetual agreement. It looks like sharing a vulnerable thought without framing it as a joke to test the waters, because you are not hiding your humanity. This mindset kills pick-me energy at the root because it removes the two fuels that fire it, the need to prove you are worthy of selection and the fear that your unvarnished self is not. When you have audited your own character and found it solid, the opinions of external evaluators become irrelevant. You walk through life with the quiet confidence of someone who has already passed their own most important test. The social world becomes not a stage for your performance, but a garden for genuine connection, where you can finally stop tending to the facade and simply enjoy the sunlight. This profound inner peace reveals the true currency of your existence, time. The 19th philosophy is a stark audit of your most precious and finite resource, demanding you use it wisely. The Roman Stoic Seneca wrote a piercing letter on the shortness of life, not to lament how brief it is, but to expose how we squander it. His central argument is devastatingly simple: life is long enough if you know how to use it. The tragedy is not that we die, but that we mislive, frittering away our days on empty pursuits while complaining we have no time. Pick-me energy is one of the most colossal, tragic wastes of this resource imaginable. Think of the cumulative hours spent crafting the perfect social media image, rehearsing conversations to impress, agonizing over a text message tone, analyzing why you are not invited, and courting the favor of people whose opinions do not nourish your soul. That is not living, that is paying a continuous toll to a phantom gatekeeper. Seneca would call this being busy, not being alive. He observed that people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Stoicism asks you to become a miser with your minutes, but a philanthropist with their purpose. The practice begins with a ruthless time audit. For 1 week, carry a small notebook or use a notes app to track your leisure and mental energy in broad categories. Do not judge, just observe. How many half-hours disappeared into scrolling, comparing, and longing? How much mental space was occupied by rehearsing for an audience that may not even be watching? The tally is often a shocking revelation. You will see clearly that the energy you bemoan lacking for your true goals has been silently siphoned off by the desperate project of managing how you are perceived. The redirection is then clear and powerful. For every hour you reclaim from that social theater, you must consciously invest it in a pursuit that builds intrinsic value, something within your control that improves your virtue. This is where the magic happens. When you redirect focus from social maneuvering to meaningful action, the need to be picked automatically shrinks. It is not suppressed, it is outgrown. Your attention and satisfaction are now tied to a different economy. Learning a skill, creating something with your hands, reading philosophy that expands your mind, helping a neighbor without fanfare. These activities generate a substance that no one can give you and no one can take away: earned confidence. The person who spends their evening mastering a difficult piano piece ends the night with a tangible sense of growth. The person who spends the same evening anxiously monitoring likes on a post ends it with a hollow feeling of lack. One activity deposits value into your inner account, the other withdraws it. As you fill your life with these substantive deposits, the hollow currency of social validation simply loses its purchasing power. Why would you trade gold for painted paper? Consider two people facing a weekend with no social plans. The first, still operating on pick-me energy, feels a creeping dread of being left out, their mind racing to manufacture an invitation or, worse, scrolling through others' joyful photos in a state of lack. Their time is spent in a passive, painful waiting room. The second, who has audited their time, sees the open space as a gift. They have a stack of books waiting, a half-finished woodworking project in the garage, a trail they have been meaning to hike. They step into the weekend with active intention. The first person's worth is contingent on an external invitation. The second's is demonstrated by their own chosen engagement with life. This is how you truly lengthen your life, not by adding years, but by filling the ones you have with dense, purposeful living. When your days are rich with learning and contribution, the anxious question of who is picking you for their team becomes a distant, faint echo. You are too busy building your own world to constantly knock on the doors of others. That reclaimed time builds a substance nothing can erode. The 20th philosophy gives us a perfect image for this strength. Be like the rock the waves crash against. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius, in the private turmoil of his thoughts, wrote this command to himself: be like the promontory against which the waves continually break. It stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it. Picture a great headland of stone jutting into a stormy sea. Each wave, massive and roaring, hurls itself against the cliff face with all its might. For a moment there is thunderous spray and foam, a spectacle of violent effort. And then the wave simply slides back, defeated, into the churning sea. The rock remains. It is not indifferent, it feels the impact, but it is unmoved in its essential nature. It does not crumble, it does not chase the retreating water, it does not apologize for being in the wave's path. It simply is. Now see the social world as that sea. The waves are the fashions, the gossip, the trending opinions, the invitations that come and go, the approval that surges and withdraws. The pick-me person is like the wave itself, or worse, like a piece of driftwood tossed upon it. They are defined by every new current, lifted by a compliment and dashed by a snub, their shape and direction dictated entirely by forces outside themselves. Their entire energy is spent in the exhausting, futile motion of trying to stay atop the latest surge. The Stoic is the promontory, your values, your reasoned principles, your self-defined worth. This is your bedrock. The social pressures crash against you. The rejection comes, a powerful wave of exclusion. The criticism lands, a cold spray of judgment. The temptation to conform for easy acceptance swells up. You feel the impact. You are human, but you do not allow that impact to alter your foundation. You stand firm in the knowledge of who you are and what you stand for. The wave of rejection recedes, leaving you exactly where you were, intact. The fury of the water is tamed, not because the sea becomes calm, but because your presence defines its limit. This rock-like resilience is not a personality trait you are born with. It is the daily practice of applying every philosophy we have discussed. It is the discipline of assent, catching the impression that you are worthless because of a snub, and letting it break apart against your reasoned judgment. It is the view from above, seeing the social squall from a cosmic distance where it looks like a minor ripple. It is living according to your nature, not the chaotic nature of the crowd. Each time you choose your inner citadel over the outer chaos, you are depositing another layer of stone onto that promontory. Think of a co-worker who tries to draw you into petty office gossip, a wave of negativity seeking to erode your integrity. The old, watery self might join in, seeking the cheap connection of shared complaint. The rock self-acknowledges the wave, feels the social pull, but stands firm. You might simply not engage or offer a neutral, kind word about the person being discussed. The wave of gossip crashes against your calm and flows back, unable to pull you into its turmoil. You have tamed its fury simply by not participating in it, or consider the pressure to abandon a principle for social ease. Everyone is cutting a corner, exaggerating a success, laughing at a cruel joke. The wave of conformity is powerful, promising the warm inclusion of the group. The rock stands firm. You might act with quiet integrity, doing the right thing even if it is unseen, or speaking a gentle truth when a lie would be easier. The wave crashes, you feel the chill of being momentarily out of sync, and then it passes. The group may flow around you, but you have held your ground, and your self-respect is solid, unbroken. This is how you become unassailable. Your core cannot be shaken by who texts you back first or who sits with you at lunch, because it is built on something deeper than the social tide table. You are no longer fighting the waves, you are providing a shoreline. And in time, people who are tired of being tossed about will begin to look for that stable ground, not to crash against it, but to find their own footing beside it. That rock-like resilience changes the very nature of connection. You are no longer a piece of driftwood hoping the current will push you toward any friendly shore. You become a beacon, and the ships you attract are of a different kind entirely. This leads us to the 21st philosophy: find your tribe through virtue, not pleasure. Most of the social bonds that fuel pick-me energy are transactional alliances of the ego. They are built on the shaky ground of shared gossip, mutual flattery, or a common enemy. Think of the classic workplace clique that bonds over complaining about the boss, or the online group that thrives on mocking a popular trend. These connections offer a quick, addictive hit of belonging, a feeling of being on the inside of a joke. But the foundation is negative. It is a bond of against rather than for. It requires a constant enemy or a perpetual stream of external drama to sustain itself. When the gossip runs out or the common target disappears, the group often turns on itself because that is the only fuel it knows. The desperation to be in any group, to feel that temporary warmth of inclusion, will lead you straight into these dynamics. You will find yourself laughing at jokes you do not find funny, nodding at criticisms you do not believe, all to maintain your seat at a table built on sand. The Stoic ideal of friendship is the polar opposite. It is an alliance of virtue. The ancient Stoics saw true friendship as the greatest external good, precisely because it was a partnership in the pursuit of wisdom and character. Seneca wrote that a friend is a second self, not in sharing your flaws, but in sharing your commitment to becoming better. This friendship is not about always agreeing or providing constant, uncritical validation. It is about challenging each other to live up to your principles, offering honest feedback even when it stings, and celebrating each other's growth in character more than each other's successes in the world. When you focus on becoming a virtuous person, a fascinating shift occurs in your social gravity. You stop broadcasting a signal of neediness which attracts predators and users, and you begin emitting a signal of integrity. You naturally attract and recognize others on a similar path. They are the ones who are not impressed by status symbols but are attentive to acts of kindness. They are not captivated by witty put-downs but are engaged by thoughtful questions. They are not looking for followers but for fellow travelers. This kills the desperation to join any group because your standard for connection is no longer mere inclusion, it is mutual elevation. You are no longer asking who will pick me, you are now asking with whom do I wish to walk. The search becomes selective, intentional, and deeply rewarding. Imagine you are at a large social event. The old energy would have you scanning the room for the most popular cluster, calculating how to infiltrate it. The new mindset has you observing interactions. You might be drawn to the two people in the corner having a quiet, intense conversation about a book, rather than the boisterous crowd in the center trading insults disguised as banter. You are looking for the quality of the interaction, not its volume or social currency. This does not mean you become a snob or a hermit. It means you engage with everyone with basic human kindness, your cosmopolitan duty, but you reserve the sacred title of friend, your inner tribe, for those who reflect and reinforce your commitment to being your best self. These are the people with whom you can be silent without awkwardness because you have nothing to prove. These are the people who will tell you when you are straying from your values, not to shame you, but because they believe in the person you are trying to become. In these connections, there is no performative pick-me energy because you have already picked each other, not for your masks but for your cause. Your belonging is no longer a fragile membership to be renewed daily. It is a shared journey you are building, stone by virtuous stone, together. That inner tribe of virtue needs no extravagant stage. The 22nd philosophy is the art of contentment with little, a quiet mastery that makes the hunger for social capital seem absurd. This is the natural extension of voluntary discomfort and the cosmic view from above. You have already practiced choosing the harder path to prove your resilience. Now you learn to find profound satisfaction on that simpler path. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, who began life as a slave and owned almost nothing but a simple cloak and a wooden bowl, embodied this. He was one of the most sought-after and revered teachers of his time, his school filled with students, yet his happiness was utterly independent of that status. He demonstrated that the fortress of contentment is built not by acquiring more, but by needing less. Pick-me energy operates on a broken economic principle. It believes that contentment is a distant city you can only reach by accumulating enough external currency, enough approval, enough followers, enough proof that you are chosen. You tell yourself, when I have that title, when I am part of that circle, when I reach that number of friends, then I will finally be happy. It is a chase that has no finish line because the goalpost of enough always moves. Stoicism flips the entire equation. Contentment is not a destination you arrive at after collecting enough trophies. It is a starting point you choose by radically reducing your list of demands on the world. The most important item to cross off that list, the heaviest burden to drop, is the demand for constant external validation. When you stop demanding that the world constantly reassure you of your worth, a miraculous space opens up. In that space, you discover you already have everything you need to be content, because contentment is a skill of perception, not a product of acquisition. It is learning to see the abundance in the ordinary, the richness in your own unadorned company. This begins with a deliberate cultivation of appreciation. It is not about pretending you do not enjoy nice things or good company. It is about refusing to let your peace be held hostage by them. Take your morning coffee. The pick-me mindset might drink it while scrolling, using it as a prop in a curated morning routine photo, or barely tasting it while mentally rehearsing the day's performances. The practice of contentment with little has you place the phone down. You feel the warmth of the mug in your hands, you smell the aroma, you taste the bitterness and the subtle notes. You are present for that one simple pleasure. In that moment you are not lacking anything. You are not thinking about who you need to impress later. You are fully inhabiting your own experience. This same practice applies to your social world. Can you find contentment in a quiet Friday night alone? Not as a depressing consolation prize, but as a positive choice. Can you appreciate the freedom of the silence, the depth of a book, the satisfaction of a home-cooked meal for one, enjoyed without performance? When you cultivate this, the terrifying specter of being left out loses its power. You are not desperately waiting for an invitation to rescue you from your own emptiness, because you have filled that space with the substantial presence of your own capable self. You start to see social gatherings not as necessities for your survival, but as optional, delightful bonuses to an already full life. This is how you dismantle the lack mentality at its core. You prove to yourself through repeated experience that you are not a half-empty cup waiting for others to fill you up. You are a spring capable of generating your own refreshment. The opinions and invitations of others become like different flavors of water you might enjoy, but you are no longer dying of thirst for them. Epictetus put it with typical bluntness: wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Apply that to your social wealth. Your social wealth is not measured by the length of your invitation list or the volume of notifications, but by the quiet certainty that you are enough with or without them. When you master wanting less from the external world, especially less validation, you find you already have more than you ever needed. That spring of contentment within you clears the water, allowing you to see others with a startling new clarity. The frantic energy of needing to be picked thrives in a fog of snap judgments. You judge others quickly, either to condemn them and curry favor with a rival group, or to idealize them as gatekeepers to your desired status. And you judge yourself with even harsher, faster cruelty the moment you face any rejection, delivering an instant damning verdict on your own worth. The 23rd philosophy cuts through this toxic fog with a single, transformative command: judge less, understand more. This is not about becoming a pushover or abandoning discernment. It is about suspending your automatic, emotional verdicts long enough to seek a deeper layer of human truth. It is the discipline of assent applied to your social perceptions. Before you assent to the impression that someone's rejection of you is a final verdict on your character, you pause. You create a space for understanding. You ask what might be happening in their world that has nothing to do with me. Perhaps their silence is born from overwhelm, not indifference. Their criticism might stem from a place of their own insecurity, not a genuine assessment of your value. Their choice to include someone else could be based on a long history you know nothing about. By seeking to understand their perspective, you disarm the judgment that you are inherently unworthy. The rejection becomes a specific event with countless possible causes, rather than a universal truth about you. This mental space is a sanctuary for your self-respect. Similarly, before you judge another person to align yourself with a popular crowd, you pause. You seek to understand their humanity. That colleague everyone is mocking for being awkward, what loneliness or anxiety might be driving their behavior. That rival you are tempted to disparage to win points, what struggles or dreams are they carrying? When you make the effort to understand, even hypothetically, the judgment loses its sharp, convenient edge. You cannot as easily use another person's humanity as a stepping stone for your own social climbing. This practice systematically dismantles the binary, tribal thinking that pick-me energy requires: us versus them, in-group versus out-group, worthy versus unworthy. It replaces it with a more complex, compassionate, and accurate view of a world filled with complicated people doing their best with the burdens they carry. Imagine you see a post from an acquaintance at a party you were not invited to. The immediate, judgmental impression is a double-edged sword. They are intentionally excluding me, and they are shallow for posting about it. You feel both judged and judgmental. The practice of understanding intervenes. You consider, perhaps the party was a last-minute gathering of old friends from a specific circle I am not part of, not a personal snub. Perhaps they posted without a second thought, simply sharing a moment of joy, not to showcase my absence. By seeking these understandings, the social injury evaporates. The energy you would have spent on resentment and self-condemnation is freed. You are no longer caught in the frantic, judgmental cycle that fuels social anxiety because you have broken the circuit. Your mind is no longer a courtroom constantly in session, prosecuting others and defending yourself. It becomes a study, a place of curious inquiry. This does not mean you become naive or tolerate genuine mistreatment. Understanding is not the same as excusing. You can understand that someone's harshness comes from their own pain and still choose to set a boundary with them. But you set that boundary from a place of calm clarity, not from a reactive place of wounded judgment. Your need to be perpetually chosen diminishes because you are no longer participating in the harsh economy of judgment that determines who is in and who is out. You step out of the judge's seat, and in doing so, you realize you were also the one most often on trial. When you stop judging yourself through the imagined eyes of others, you no longer need them to pick you to overturn the guilty verdict. You have already granted yourself a pardon based on the deeper understanding that your worth was never truly at stake in their fleeting opinion. That deeper understanding of others frees you from their judgments, but it also reveals a far more important question. What are you building that will outlast those judgments altogether? The 24th philosophy asks you to zoom out to the Stoic view of legacy. Forget monuments, forget fame, forget being remembered fondly by a specific crowd or generation. For the Stoic, your only true legacy is the integrity of your character. It is the echo of your virtues that lingers in the world long after your name is forgotten. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius, ruling one of history's greatest empires, constantly returned to this private truth in his journal. He wrote to himself, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be." Be one, and elsewhere he framed the ultimate test of a life well lived. Live in such a way that if someone were to speak ill of you, the words would simply be false. Let that sink in. Your goal is not to control the narrative others have of you, to ensure they pick you as the hero of their story. Your goal is to live with such consistent virtue that any slander, any gossip, any attempt to diminish you would ring hollow against the observable evidence of your life. It would be like calling the sun dark, a statement so disconnected from reality it carries no weight. This is the unshakable foundation for your self-worth. You are not building your value on the shifting sands of who likes you this season. You are building it on the bedrock of your actions, your honesty in difficult moments, your courage in the face of convenience, your quiet kindness when no one is watching. Each of these acts is a brick in a monument only you can see, but that everyone eventually feels. When your legacy is your character, the opinions of the current in crowd become irrelevant noise. They are the pop songs playing in a passing car, while you are composing a symphony meant to resonate through centuries. You are no longer campaigning for a temporary seat at a fashionable table. You are laying the cornerstone for a temple that will shelter generations you will never meet. Consider two people at the end of their lives. The first spent decades climbing social ladders, winning favor, being picked for the right clubs and committees. Their name was in newsletters and on guest lists, but when they are gone, the social machinery churns on without them. The seats are filled by new faces, the conversations continue, and their legacy is a faint, polite memory that fades with the people who knew them. The second person lived differently. They focused on being a person of their word. They stood up for the marginalized when it was costly. They created things of beauty and use. They raised children or mentored strangers with patience and principle. They were not always popular, and they were certainly not always picked, but their character, like a stone dropped in a pond, created ripples of integrity, courage, and love that spread outward long after they were gone. Their legacy is not a memory, it is a living force in the choices of those they influenced. This is what it means to build something eternal. Your character is the one thing you take with you, and the one thing you truly leave behind. Every time you choose honesty over a convenient lie, you are etching your legacy. Every time you show kindness to someone who can do nothing for you, you are signing your name on the blueprint of a better world. Every time you endure unfair criticism with grace, you are proving the slander false, not with words, but with the undeniable fact of who you are. This focus makes you magnificently indifferent to the petty social games of the moment. Why would you trade a single brick of your eternal temple for a cheap ribbon of today's popularity? The answer is you would not. You have moved beyond the economy of likes and invites into the economy of moral substance. Your worth is no longer a question for the crowd to answer. It is an answer you are living every single day, and that kind of answer echoes forever. That eternal legacy you build from virtue cannot be touched by the daily trivia of social life. The 25th and final philosophy is the ultimate liberation, the freedom of indifference to trivialities. The Stoics had a precise term for these things, adiaphora, meaning matters indifferent. They are the vast sea of external events and objects that, in themselves, are neither good nor bad for your true flourishing, your moral character. They are simply indifferent. Now, this is where the philosophy delivers its final, surgical strike to pick-me energy, because nearly everything that desperate mindset craves, the specific invitation to the right party, the approving nod from the trendy crowd, the viral post, the perfect number of followers, the feeling of being in the inner circle, all of these are textbook adiaphora. They are socially preferred indifference at best or dispreferred indifference at worst, but they are never inherently good. The only true good is your own virtuous character, and the only true evil is your own vice. Everything else, every single social metric and marker is just stuff happening. When you truly internalize this, the entire frantic performance collapses. Your emotional energy is no longer hijacked by these indifferent events. You can engage with them, you can even prefer some over others, but you do so with a light touch, knowing they hold no power to make you better or worse as a person. Imagine two people receiving the same piece of news. They were not invited to a high-profile industry event. The first person, still seeing such events as inherently good, is devastated. Their mind spirals. What does this say about my career, my network, my worth? They feel lesser, rejected, anxious. Their entire day is colored by this indifferent event. The second person, who sees through the lens of adiaphora, receives the information calmly. They might prefer to have been invited. It could have been interesting or useful. But its absence is not a bad thing. It is merely a thing that did not happen. Their worth as a professional is determined by the quality of their work and their integrity, virtues entirely within their control, not by an invitation list crafted by someone else. They might feel a flicker of disappointment. A preferred indifferent was not obtained, but it does not metastasize into self-doubt. They shrug, mentally file it under adiaphora, and redirect their energy to something that truly matters, like improving their craft or connecting with a colleague in a genuine way. This is not apathy. This is profound emotional efficiency. You are conserving your most precious resource, your attention and your peace, for the only arena where good and bad actually exist, your own choices. You stop granting social trivialities a vote in your inner parliament. Embracing this indifference is the final kill shot because it severs the last, finest thread connecting your happiness to external validation. You realize you have been playing a game where the points were never real. The scoreboard of likes, invites, and insider status is a phantom. You can walk off that field entirely, not in defeat, but in the realization that you were never actually in a contest. Your happiness and worth were never meant to be stored in those fragile, external containers. They are rooted in the unshakable ground of your character. This is the ultimate freedom. You can now engage with the social world from a place of abundance, not lack. You go to the party not because you need to be seen there to feel whole, but because you think it might be fun. You post your art not to harvest validation, but to share a piece of your truth. You seek connection not as a life raft, but as a celebration of shared humanity. The energy you emit is no longer a hungry frequency. It is a clear, steady signal of a person who is already complete. And in that completion, in that sovereign indifference to the noise, you find a quiet so deep it sounds like coming home. The performance is over. The real life, your life, can finally begin. That fortress of inner worth is now complete, its gates closed to the frantic noise of seeking approval. We have walked through 25 doorways, each one a philosophy that dismantled a piece of that fragile, external seeking architecture. From the foundational separation of what is within our control to the ultimate freedom of indifference, each step was a deliberate move away from performing for a jury and toward building a life of substance. This journey was never about becoming cold, isolated, or antisocial. It is about the exact opposite. It is about engaging with the rich, messy, beautiful human world from a place of unshakable strength and calm authenticity, not from a place of desperate neediness. When you are no longer frantically signaling for rescue, you can finally see the other people on the shore, and you can connect with them as equals, not as potential saviors. You can choose your friendships based on shared virtue, not shared gossip. You can offer love without the hidden contract that it must be returned in a specific way. You can contribute to conversations without the underlying anxiety of whether your words make you look clever. This is the real social freedom Stoicism offers, the freedom to be fully present because you are no longer half somewhere else auditioning for a role in someone else's story. The energy you once spent on that exhausting performance is now yours to invest in what truly matters, in deep work, in real connection, in a life that feels authentically your own. The path from pick-me to self-possessed is walked one choice at a time. This week, do not feel you must master all 25 philosophies at once. That is the old all or nothing mindset. Instead, pick just one or two to practice with gentle consistency. Perhaps start with the evening review, honestly auditing where you handed your piece over to an external event. Or practice the discipline of assent, catching that initial catastrophic impression that someone's silence means you are worthless, and questioning it before you believe it. Maybe simply practice the view from above, pulling your perspective to the cosmic scale when a social slight feels like the end of the world. Each small act of redirection is a brick laid in your inner citadel. Each time you choose your own reasoned judgment over the fickle verdict of the crowd, you feel the shift. The old anxiety does not disappear overnight, but it loses its authority. You begin to recognize its voice as an echo from an empty room, and you learn to stop answering. This is your life, and your worth is not a question for the world to answer. It is an answer you are living with every virtuous choice. If this path toward resilience resonates with you, consider subscribing. Together, we can explore more timeless wisdom for building a life of purpose and unshakable peace. And in the comments below, I would love to hear from you. Which one of these Stoic principles landed with the most force in your own quiet battle against that need for validation? Your story might be the spark of recognition someone else needs to begin their own journey home to themselves.